How did I create this? This is what we're going to create in this video. This is the most complex photo I have ever created. It is a panorama consisting of 15 frames created with 150 stacked photos. It took 30 minutes to capture, but 3 months of planning to get it right. Since this was a panorama, I had many different sets of photos that needed to be stacked separately. In the field, when I finished capturing a set of photos for each part of the pano, I took one more image. For this image, I set the ISO to 40,000 so that it really stands out from the rest and makes selecting the images easier. I then selected all the dark photos in a selection and drag and drop them into Deep Sky Stacker. Deep Sky Stacker is free software, and you can check out my article about it at patreon.com/EWJ. These will be my light frames. I also have dark frames that were taken with my lens cap on. Dark frames help to reduce noise. I have them organized by camera body, lens and white balance, then by ISO and exposure. These were taken at ISO 6400 for 6 seconds. I drag those frames over to Deep Sky Stacker and select dark frames. Next, I click Stack Checked Pictures. Make sure your stacking mode is set to Mosaic and click OK. This will take a couple minutes to process, and the resulting image is going to be a little disappointing. But don't worry, we'll take care of that in a few minutes in Photoshop. Next, save this stacked photo to a folder and repeat the process for each set of photos for the pano. Now on to Photoshop. In Photoshop, I'm going to create a new action group for developing these photos. This action group will make sure that all these photos are developed the same. I'll call this one Galaxy, and then I'll do recording for my steps called Set to Pano, so I know which group of photos that are being developed so they're all done consistently. To start off, I'll press Shift-Control-A to open the Adobe Camera Raw editor. This essentially gives you Lightroom's capabilities in Photoshop. We'll increase the exposure, the whites, the blacks, the highlights, and the contrast. Next, we'll zoom in to address the noise. Under Detail, adjust the noise reduction and color noise reduction to remove the grain, but not so much as to lose the details. Once you're done, click OK. Since Deep Sky Stacker rotated my images from portrait to landscape, I need to add a rotation from landscape back to portrait. Under Image, I select Rotation and then 90 degrees counterclockwise. Next, I'll use the cropping tool. Since these photos are stacked and the sky was moving, the edges will not contain as much information and will look grainy. I'm going to slightly crop the photo to remove the grainy data. I'm done with the steps, so I click Stop on the recording and close the photo. If you're enjoying this video, please click that subscribe button and the notification icon. Also, if you want to support this channel further, check out my bonus content at patreon.com/EWJ. Next, I load all the photos into Photoshop under different tabs. I now go through one photo at a time and apply the recording. This will give me a consistent initial development of each photo, since each photo was taken in manual mode with the same settings. Also, the same settings were used in Deep Sky Stacker to process them. To export these photos, I'll click File, Scripts, Image Processor. Putting them in their own folder will make it easier to select them in Lightroom. I'll select a folder to save them in. I want to retain as much image data as possible, so I'll uncheck Save as JPEG and I'll check Save as TIFF. Your screen may flash a bit as each image is converted to the TIFF format and saved. Once this is done, import that folder into Lightroom. We're going to create the panorama by selecting all the photos and right-clicking one of them. Next, select Photo Merge and then Panorama. This process is going to take a couple of minutes. We have 3 different modes that we can process the panorama in. Click through them and select the mode that gives you the perspective that fits your vision. I'm going to go with spherical projection. I set my white balance to sunny for this capture. It is very warm and I want to add some color to make parts of this image stand out. Just so I can make different versions of this photo, I'm going to right-click it and select Create Virtual Copy. Select the virtual copy and then right-click it. Select Edit In, and then click Edit in Photoshop. Zooming in, you can see there is a lot of detail to this photo. I want the core of this galaxy to brighten up a bit, so I'm going to press Ctrl M to bring up my curves. I'll turn on the selection option and then point and hold down the mouse button on the colors that I want to brighten. Move the mouse up while still pressing the mouse button to brighten the pixels that match the brightness that you selected. I'm going to darken some of the areas of this photo to increase the contrast. So I'm going to use that selection tool again. Move the mouse over part of the image that I want to darken, press the mouse button, and while holding it down, drag the mouse down to darken those colors. Next, I'll create a duplicate of this layer so my next adjustments can be reversed. I want to make some adjustments to colors of a specific color range. Let's go under the Select menu and choose Color Range. I'm now going to select a range of colors that I want to work with and click OK. The preview window will give you an idea of what part of the photo will be selected. To hide the marching ants, press Ctrl H, but remember, you are still working with a selected part of the image. Under Image, select Adjustments and Vibrance. I'm going to try and make some colors stand out a bit more with some vibrance. The photo is still very warm, so I'm going to add some more color changes. I make a new duplicate copy of the photo, and I experiment with trying to cool the entire photo, but this produces a very unnatural look. So I canceled it and once again selected a color range. Using Ctrl H to hide those marching ants, I click Image, Adjustments, Color Balance. I was able to make some slight changes, but they're still not dramatic enough. Turning this layer on and off does show that I was able to get a little more detail in the cloud. Let's make another duplicate layer for the next steps. Remember to go under Select and click Deselect, or all of your future adjustments will only be to the selected area from our previous step. I'm going to cool the entire photo by clicking Image, Adjustments, Color Balance. I needed to find a good balance of changes that don't look too fake, yet really cool the colors of the stars outside the galaxy. I then gave this layer a layer mask. Select the layer mask and press Ctrl I to invert it to 100% transparent. Switch your brush color to white. Then adjust your brush to be fairly large and feathered. Then set a very low opacity. We want very subtle changes. Begin painting the stars outside the galaxy until they cool the background, but leave the galactic cloud unchanged. As you do this, the galaxy will start to stand out more. Make sure you have the entire photo on screen so that you can cool all the necessary areas. I'm going to select a layer below the cooled layer and make a duplicate of it. Next, hide the cooled layer. To add some more color, I'm going to open that color balancing tool once again. I am making this a very strong magenta color. Give this layer a layer mask, and then press Ctrl I to invert the mask. Move the magenta layer above the cooled layer and turn the cooled layer back on. I want to add some magenta to just small portions of the cloud to make the color difference stand out. I'm setting the opacity even lower to make these changes as settled and natural looking as possible. I'm placing this magenta where the bright parts of the cloud meet the dark part in the middle. I'm going to click Ctrl, Shift, Alt, E to merge all the visible layers into a new layer. Next, I create another duplicate layer to protect my current work. This is my Dodge and Burn layer. I select the Burn tool and then tell it to only burn shadows. I have a very low exposure set. I'll use this tool to darken the shadow of the cloud. I still feel that the cool colors need to be more pronounced, so I'm going to make a duplicate of the cool layers, and then I'm going to move that layer to the top of the stack. That's it. This is the most complex photo that I've ever created. The final image is 15,000 by 5,307 pixels. Next week, we'll continue our adventure by driving from the Grand Canyon to another very remote and popular photographic location called White Pocket.